Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday night live stream. Took me a minute to get started because I literally just walked out here. So, making sure everything is running smooth, but I think we are good. Appreciate y'all being here with me. Pete Donovan, Raphael, Quaid, John Fernandez. You're all this early. Appreciate you being here. Another new angle. So right now, the way I'm doing this with these streams, I have my iPhone 15 Pro Max. That is just on a Rode arm with the mag, the magnet on the back of it. MagSafe, I think is what they call it. I've just been using that as my live stream camera the last few weeks, and it kind of makes me want to film everything on my iPhone, like everything for the channel because of how easy it is. And that's just kind of where I'm at in terms of the production value that I'm interested in, I guess. But I don't know. I also enjoy filming with the Nikon, so I still do that. But Photo Dude, what's up? Mel, how's everybody doing tonight? I thought we would take a look at some books together. Now seems like a pretty good time to maybe just check out a little bit from the real world and everything going on. I thought maybe we would look at some books together, and if you have any recommendations, shout them out. What's up, Matt? Yeah, it is warmer here in the barn right now. Matter of fact, I haven't even turned the heater on. I didn't notice it until you just said that. I didn't have to turn the heater on tonight, and that's something worth celebrating. That feels good. I'm here just in a hoodie, and I'm feeling comfortable. So spring, please, any day now. Got my Red River sample paper and was able to test them. Oh my gosh, they're all amazing. Amazing, Quaid. That's awesome to hear. We were talking, if any of you that are here right now, if you weren't here, was it last week? Probably when we were talking about that. We were talking about different inkjet papers that we've tried, and we recommended Red River paper. And Quaid got some and put some to test. That's awesome. Any Joel Meyerowitz? Yeah, we do have some. We can take a look at that. I just came back to New Jersey from skiing in Vermont, and the temp shift is shocking. Oh, I bet. Yeah, it just over the last 2 days, it's like Monday, Tuesday, then Wednesday, it's gotten a little bit warmer each day. We're probably going to get snow or freezing rain or something, in the next week, but I'm enjoying it today. Joel Meyerowitz. Let's see. So I used to have more Joel Meyerowitz, only one more, not like a ton more or anything, but his book, I believe we talked about it, Aftermath. I gave that to my friend Matt Seal. But I have a few books of his, one of which is really like a proper photo book, and it's his most well-known one, Cape Light. But we can take a look at these just to get started off. Switch this over here. All right. Jeremy, good to see you, brother. 70s here in Virginia after snow last week. Enjoy that, man. That sounds amazing. It was in the 60s here today. Now I got to decide which paper I want to offer prints on. Metallic gloss looks so great. That's one I haven't tried, Quaid, so I'll have to look into that one. All right. Welcome, everybody. Right now, these are the only books of Joel Meyerowitz that I own. I used to have Aftermath, I believe is what it's called. We talked about it before. That's the book he did on basically at 9/11, at the World Trade Center, at Ground Zero, in the aftermath of 9/11. I gave that book to a friend, but I have these two books, which I have talked about on the channel. They're more books that you read, although they are full of photography, but there's a lot of stuff, a lot of good conversations and insight into Joel Meyerowitz and just the common question we've all, been faced with or that we're faced with every day. whether or not to shoot in color or black and white. The Rugged West, no, I do not, but I will add that to my list of artists to check out. Appreciate the recommendation. Mel, how do you like it? How do you like the book? Says you got this one for your birthday at the beginning of the month. Happy belated birthday, if we haven't already discussed it. It's a great one, though. The pleasure of seeing. This is more conversations. I picked this up in Brooklyn last year. Definitely a much lengthier read than A Question of Color, but also really good stuff, and it does include some of his work. However, this is the one we're going to take a look at tonight, because definitely, I don't know if I'm not familiar enough with all of his work to say this is his most famous work, but I think for a lot of people, when they think of Joel Meyerowitz, this is one that does come to mind. Maybe it's the street photography for some. This is the stuff of his that I love the most personally. It's in my pile of books to flip through, so I haven't gotten to it yet. I know that feeling all too well. Glad to know I'm not the only one. Well, when you do get to it, Mel, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It's great. Greetings from Zurich. Hey, great to have you here. You've been wanting Cape Light for ages. Well, this will be a good way to kind of check it out beforehand. That's one thing that we discuss sometimes on the channel, or at least we have before, like, revealing too much of a book before someone gets it in their hand. I mean, I feel that way to an extent, but at the same time, in all honesty, like, it's not going to be the same thing as when you first sit down with the book in person. You could see all of these photos through this form, just viewing it through this lens. And I think this is as close as you'll get, but you've really got to sit down with it in person, in all honesty. To me, the reason I bring it up is because that is something that I kind of wrestled with for a while and wondered about. Like, does this lessen or devalue the work in sharing it this way? But at least for me, anytime I see anyone else share a book, I'm much more inclined to buy that book afterwards, specifically if it's a book I'm really enjoying. So I think you're good. It's a different feeling entirely when you get your hands on it. Yeah, well said. Charles says, first time seeing it live. I like this format. Awesome. Glad to have you here. This is such a nice... this is the kind of thing that, I mean, sure, if you want to pair these side by side on a little Instagram slide, cool. It has an effect. But sitting down with the book like this in person and seeing it at this size, making that kind of switch at your own pace, it's just so nice. Fighting a little bit of glares here. Let me check something real quick. Okay, we're gonna adjust the exposure a little bit. I don't want to give you guys too many glares. Is that let me work on this for a sec. Think might need to change up the angle a little bit. Some books are a little more reflective than others. I'll just try to make sure I hold the page up each time to avoid that. Jake, second week here. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Glad you're enjoying it. Mel says, I really enjoy seeing book reviews because I'm never going to have the funds to afford all the photo books I want. That way I can have an experience of some books I may or may not get. Yeah, 1000%. That's another great thing about it is, like, some of these books that I share. Last week we took a look at a Matt Eich book that has been out of print for a while and it's hard to get. And I only got it because a friend gifted it to me. Hey, last week I think it was, we were looking at Roger Deakins, That Lightning Shot. Here's one for you if you were here. Bobby, what's up, dude? Good to see you. Let me see how you went with your bright screen. Luke, to be honest with you, brother, It has been almost 10 years, I think, maybe 9 years since I shot that, and I do not remember. I believe I did, but this could be this could just be me remembering it wrong. I apologize. Yeah, Matt, I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong. I believe all of this was shot on 8x10 color. Could be wrong, but yeah, you see a lot of stuff like this, a lot of the photos of people, of very slow shutter speed being used, a lot of blur and stuff. Isaac, I appreciate that. Says, after how screwed up Instagram's algorithm has been all day, it's nice to just sit and see photography work. That's the whole goal with these live streams, in all honesty, for me and for all of you. Just give me a little break to just flip through some books. In all honesty, this is the majority of the time that I interact with photo books, at least this month. It's been here on stream with all of you guys. So it's nice that I've managed to schedule in time, like required photo book consumption time. It's really nice. And we're going to zoom in on this one because this, I think, was one of the first ones when I flipped through the book where it really stopped me. And I was just like, oh, that looks incredible. How is that real life? I mean, everything, this book is beautiful, but stuff like this, man, that's just so good. Oh, right on, Dan. He says, I've got a bunch that I've gone through from my library that I later purchased. That's something that the Chillicothe, the local library here, their photography section, there's nothing there other than a couple of books I made and donated myself. I would love to see more books added there someday, but I always envy people who have libraries near them, big or small, that have some photo book selection. That's great. Yeah, this is a really, really good way to kind of find some inspiration or reignite the fire. Quaid, that's a good point. This is usually one of the first things I recommend to people when they're saying they're burnt out or they don't have any inspiration or nothing is inspiring them. I usually check and ask, where are you getting your inspiration from? Especially if it's if you're not actively looking for it. I think it's I find inspiration and I find inspiring photographers, at least. I still come across photography on Instagram that I see that I'm like, wow, this is really good. So I can't say it's all bad because there is great work that I come across on there. It's just sifting through so much noise to get one thing that really resonates with you. I feel like it's a little bit easier to find something when you're looking through books, less scrolling, To go from such a stark difference in color and mood and everything from that to that. Do color books ever give you motivation to shoot more color? I think they give me the the wish that I that I was better at color. I feel like I've been saying that most of my photography life is that I wish I could do color better. I don't know. Every once in a while, I'll go through little periods of time where I'll be having fun with color and I'm interested in shooting color. Sorry, YouTube. Don't know what's cool and what's not here. But most of the time, I just default to black and white because it's what feels right in the end. Maybe this will make sense. Sometimes I think when I'm editing a color photo or if I'm shooting color film and I'm correcting the scan, whatever. Sometimes I think here's another great before and after of the light. It's not even like really a different time of day, maybe, because it's in the same spot. It's just the intensity of the light without the cloud cover. But there is something that I don't know about color where I feel like every time I'm looking at one of my own color photos or if I'm considering a color edit, it's like I'm just trying to emulate some other photographer that I like, and it's not necessarily like me making my own choice on the color. Does that make sense? I don't know how else to describe that, but that's kind of how it feels, where it just feels like I'm trying to get my colors to look like X, Y, or Z, and I just can't do that. It just doesn't feel natural to me. Like everything feels natural in black and white to me, despite loving so much color photography that's out there. I don't know. Bleep, bleep, Ohio. Books are king. Seem to be working for the algorithm and talking gear. Although there are some on YouTube who are legit as well, obviously. I mean, I talk about gear all the time. Not all the time, but I mean, it's a big mix of everything. People do what they want, man. Let's see. No, Quaid, I don't have that one, actually. Charles, what's up, man? Good to see you. Mel says, I feel the same, like no matter how much color I shoot, I always end up slipping back to black and white. My current photo project is in color, though, because I didn't like the black and white shots. Oh, right on. Well, good luck. Likewise, I don't feel as if I have my own personal palette for color photographs. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels that way. Yeah, I feel like like an imposter. Yeah, where I'm just like, this is this me? I don't know. But then again, who's to say other than me? You know what I mean? Like I can decide to shoot color, and that's what I'm going to start doing. I can decide that at any time. I think it's just leaning into what feels the most natural. Oh, Alex, that's amazing. He says, I know it's digital, but I have my X100 VI or 6, whatever they're called, with me for my boy's birth. Almost all the photos I like and are black and white. Yeah, 100%. Congratulations, by the way. But I used, which one? Which one of the kids? It was for its birth. I used an X100V quite a bit for that one. Great cameras. My gallery work is all black and white. Color tends to be snapshots for me, maybe because of printing the black and white in a dark room, and color is all in a screen. Yeah, I feel that as well. For me, that was another big reason why I always kind of leaned more towards black and white, even when I had like the time and I always had chemicals to develop color. I couldn't print those with my enlarger and, my dark room that I had at the time. I could only do black and white, so that gave me even more incentive to use black and white specifically. Do you have any insight on the process of getting your work into Respect Photo Reviews competitions as well as in front of publishers? I personally do not, in all honesty. That's not anything I've ever done or have any experience with, so I don't know personally. Does it feel like with the short attention span of current society that it is hard to break out and be seen? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I post so much less than I used to because of that like fatigue where I'm just like, how? You know what I mean? Like how, what do you want me to say when most of the time people are like, I don't even see your stuff in my feed because it's just all shuffled, whatever. I don't know. I used to post so much more when the apps were different and not every single post was like a fake podcast conversation about, some random item. Like, I feel like everything I see, it's something that's clearly not a real podcast. And it's just people talking about something. And I'm like, yeah, there's really a podcast for, I don't know, computer mice. I mean, maybe there is a whole podcast for that out there. But it's like, who are these ads fooling? I don't know, dude. Yeah, the short attention span stuff is a major bummer to me, if you can't tell. I personally enjoy long form stuff. That's why I still make YouTube videos and still just sit down and like talk and just catch up with everyone through the videos. And I know that those aren't going to perform as well as something with like super fast edits and me, I don't know, saying I've got the 10 hacks that you need to know or whatever. But I cannot do any of that stuff. It just doesn't work for me. Black and white film, not B&H. I never thought that initially learning on black and white might be the reason my work leans that way. My school didn't have color film or even digital cameras, so everything the first 2 years was black and white. Yeah, I think a lot of people probably naturally go towards what they're like, what they first fell in love with, That's something I've been trying to tap back into because I feel like that's an important side of everyone that can get lost in the process of like trying to find your own style or your own voice. Sometimes you can be looking for that and like trying to figure that out so much that you're kind of missing like what's right in front of you and like what drew you to it in the first place. You know what I mean? Yeah, like the fake podcast ads for the Rocket Money app. Exactly. It's stuff like that. Hot take, it shouldn't take a degree to work the social media algorithm and get things seen. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I see it all the time where people are like, I'm subscribed to the channel, but I don't see the videos when they pop up. I don't know. I don't know how it all works, but I'm going to put these books back and I'm going to grab something else. I want to find one that we haven't looked at. Talking about black and white. Right here. Yeah. Let's see. The buzzwords and hashtags feel like I'm trying to post on LinkedIn or have a resume past the AI screening. Alex, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. That's the goal. That truly is the goal. Like, let's just, let's be people here. I do have Baldwin Lee. Oh, all right. Tell you what. Just gotta find it. All the way down here. All right. So, we will take a look at A Life in Transition by Brian Gaberman because it's incredible black and white work. But Dan just brought up one of my favorites. This came out in, 23, I think it was. Whatever year it came out, it was one of my favorite books of the entire year. Absolutely Incredible work. The book is titled Baldwin Lee, the name of the photographer here. John says, I go through Baldwin Lee at least once a month. It's so good. Yes, it is. What's up, Neil? Good to see you. Oh, wow. Dan got to see these in person at a show. I'm jealous. That sounds amazing. Alex, thanks for hanging, man. Go take care of business. So, yeah, this was his first book, if I'm not mistaken, selected from an archive. It's 88 photos, selected from an archive of nearly 10,000 images made between 1983 and 1989. So keep that in mind, that short time span and that many photos at a time when you weren't seeing them right away. Oh man, Jeff, that sounds incredible. I'd never been to Pier 24, but I had several photographers I know and at least know of posting about that place closing. If you've never seen Baldwin Lee's work before, let me know in the chat right now, because I really hope there are some people seeing this for the first time. I don't know if this book has been reprinted in the time. Never. 2 nevers already. Amazing. Oh, that's awesome. This is new to a lot of people. This is great. This makes me happy. Yeah, Baldwin Lee. Write that name down. Make sure you you follow up with Baldwin Lee's work after this stream. This book was sold out for a while, and I don't know if it was reprinted. Maybe someone might know. Oh, I had no idea Baldwin Lee did Sasha Wolf's podcast. So now I will definitely be listening to that. She has a great podcast. If anyone's listening, the Photo Work podcast, I believe is what it's called. Jeff says his attitude at the end was basically, I did the work and now I'm done with photography. Funny guy. That's amazing. It's had 3 reprints, and people should track down any podcasts with him. Good looking out. I had no idea. I've never heard him speak about photography or anything. So I am so glad you all shared that with me. I'm stoked to listen to those. Yeah, from what I remember reading, it was like so many of these photos were just not seen by anyone other than him. Or maybe he had shared the work as like while he, I don't know. I can't remember. But this being his first book and it coming out all these years later, and now to hear him say that, that's interesting. I don't know if you guys can hear the coyotes. Maybe it's not coming through the microphone, but they're going wild out there right now. Maybe this will make sense to some of you. What is it about? Heard a dog barking before and it wasn't mine. Yeah, that was the neighbor's dog. Yeah, my pups are all in the house. They're a bunch of babies. They're laying in our children's bed and on the couches. Scenes like this, maybe it's just a matter of the way film handles highlights, but light like this, you see how hard this light is that they're standing in? Why does that always look better on film, or film just handles it better. Even, not blowing out the highlights and just, bringing up the exposure in post and doing all that. If I tried to get this look in broad daylight, it just wouldn't look as good digitally. At least I've never been able to, I don't know. I feel like it's the older lenses. That's a good thought. True. Oh, look, all of the lightning. This is not intentional, but we got another lightning shot. Is time the best judgment of someone's work? We can be self-critical of our work because we want validation right now. That's a great question. I think, I mentioned this to someone once before, where someone was talking about, photographers of today and comparing like, let's say, popular photographers of today. And they're talking about them. This is so good. So good. They're talking about photographers of today, and they were saying something, along the lines of like, well, they're no Cartier-Bresson, or they're no Robert Frank, or they're no, so on and so forth. And, yeah, sure, that can be said. But what I was trying to say was like, it's not really a fair comparison to just compare someone, or say, I guess essentially to say the photographers of today, or these so specific photographers of today, were not somebody worth looking into because, they're not a great and they haven't proven themselves yet, and yada, 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 and all this stuff. And it's like, were none of the greats beginners at some point? Not even just beginners, but like, were they not all on their own journey as well? You know what I mean? We have the luxury of viewing all of the greats and seeing their work in so many different ways. Whereas nowadays, when you follow a photographer, part of the game, for better or worse, is getting your work in front of people and using social media and using all of the tools that are out there. There are a lot of incredible photographers out there that will go entirely unnoticed because they're just not going to share their work in certain ways. And there's nothing wrong with that. But to, I guess, just compare photographers today that we're seeing in real time making new work and learning and growing, we kind of have the luxury of viewing the greats and seeing the greatest hits, so to speak. We weren't seeing some of these legends of photography when they were, going through a severely burnt out phase, or, anything like that. It's like we have the luxury of seeing their best. And most photographers nowadays, if you're sharing in real time, at least, like, you're not going to be sharing your best. I don't know. Just food for thought. I look back at photos I thought were garbage years later and then end up liking them. I've heard some say they won't look at their SD card for at least a month before culling. Yeah. Oh, Dan says these were all shot on 4x5 in case anyone wondered. Appreciate the heads up, Dan. I had no idea, but the question would come up at some point, so appreciate it. Yeah, in regards to not looking at any work before culling, that was a big part for me with Surveyor, was not developing the film until I was at least 6 months into the project, because I just knew I would crumble. I knew I would look at it and be like, this all sucks, I'm a failure, I can't do this, and then, it would just fall apart. I have to give myself some distance in a way. Oh, Brian Burke's in the house. He says, Baldwin is a legend. I got to chat with him at a critique, and he talked about his lenses and how he worked as fast as possible, shot 100 sheets a day. Holy, yeah, good point. Dan just mentioned these were shot on 4x5. I kind of forgot the opening statement of, over 10,000 photos. That's wild to shoot that much. Oh my god. I mean, not wild to shoot that much, but on 4x5. Brian, you got to get those numbers up, dog. 100 a day. Wow. It says, if I remember correctly, Baldwin took like 10,000 images during this period. He left all the negatives with the guy who runs the press that put this book out, who did the editing and sequencing many years later. Oh my God. That's amazing. See, that's the thing. I remember reading about like the photos not really being anything until all these years later. Yeah, this is another one that's just so good. So good. I really appreciate this being included in the frame. I'm a sucker for anything that passes through the entire frame, specifically like vertically. But all of the texture on this and just the choice to include it, like that would have totally worked as a photo if he shot in a way that didn't include that. You know what I mean? But that just works so well. You could buy a house. Matt says you could buy a house with how much it would cost to shoot 100 4x5 frames for one day. Yeah, in this economy, come on. The light, the reflection in these glasses really makes that for me. I know there's more to the photo, but love that. Legit blows my mind. Like I sometimes struggle with a roll of 35. Yup. I get that. So good. This one here reminds me of Sage Sawyer so much. In the best way, obviously. Anything that would remind me of Sage is the highest compliment. I still haven't been able to finish a roll during a session. Always have to do a few throwaway shots to finish it off. It's always the toughest decision, you know? When you've got just a couple frames left and you're like, do I try to find something, or do I just hurry it up so I can get this developed and actually see the work? That wasn't a naked person, just in case anyone was curious. I wouldn't have lingered on that one for that long. Oh, wow. Neil says, I saw Robert Frank and Todd Webb across America. 1955 exhibit last week. Learned that the Americans' 83 images were filled from 28,000 over 3 years. Wow. That's wild. Knew it was a lot, but 28,000. This is another one that's just so good. Cold. Okay. That makes sense, Neil. I got you. Why does it cost so much to print a book? By the time you get it all planned and printed, you got to sell that sucker for 75 plus. Yeah, it is not cheap to print books when you want to get the right quality, you know. Oh, yeah, I could totally see the Walker Evans inspiration on some of, there were some of these that really got me thinking that. Was it the interior? Yeah, one of these. That one, the vertical ones. There were a couple vertical ones. Maybe they were further back. Fully see that. Yeah. Yeah, we definitely didn't pick a cheap profession or hobby. We're almost through this book, so if anyone has any other requests for after this, otherwise, I've got a black and white book that we can take a look at. But Baldwin Lee, if you haven't already, since seeing this, name, spelling for everyone, if you're interested, Baldwin Lee, the name of the book and photographer, one of my all-time favorites for sure. For anyone interested, Steidl is reprinting new topographics for all the Robert Adams, Henry Wessel, etc. heads out there. Good looking out, Jeff. I'm glad you all enjoyed that one. Now, this one is a very different kind of black and white. Brian Gaberman, photographer in the world of skateboarding, hence the punny name, A Life in Transition. Photography of Brian Gaberman, the Element years 2006 to 2013. Yeah, so this was done through Element Skateboards, I believe, or they had some kind of, hand in it. I don't know. It was published by Element, so I don't know if you can find this anymore, but you might be able to find it out there. But for any fans of skate photography, this is one you'll enjoy, but this is also one that I think just most photographers can appreciate, whether they are into skateboarding or not. Brian Gaberman has always been kind of one of the... He's someone I would consider a photographer's skate photographer, pretty sure that's Evan Smith way back in the day. I haven't looked at this one in a long time. Some of his black and white work, though, is some of my favorites. Levi Brown, amazing skateboarder, also a photographer. There's the cover image there. The man, one of the best humans out there, Ray Barbie. Love that one. Oh, the Ray Vans and Leicas. Ray sent me a pair of those when those came out, and I've still got them in the box. I'm not a shoe collector, but I've got those in a box in my closet. Is this book still in print? I'm not sure, in all honesty. I got this book years ago. I doubt it's still in print because, I know it's not being printed, I should say. This was something that was printed through a skate company years ago, so it's not a full-on book publisher. However, you might be able to find copies online. But yeah, if you like skate photography, Brian Gaberman, A Life in Transition. That's a good one. But let me know if you all have any other recommendations that you'd like to see. I envy photographers that get in with a scene, they document it as it's happening. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the biggest parts of it that you hear skate photographers talk about is, documenting everything, and that's one of the best things about it. Try to, even if it's not skateboarding, try to find your scene, find your people, you know what I mean? Which, that can be tough. I'll grab another one here. What do you guys feel like looking at? I've got a few different books. If you guys don't mind, we're going to look at some Steinmetz. We were talking about people documenting a scene. So let's take a look at one of the best, one of the absolute best to do it. This is The Players by Mark Steinmetz. And if you've never seen this one, you're in for a treat. I think so anyway, because it's amazing. And this book is about Little League Baseball. So it's awesome. This feels so much like the opening of Summer Camp by Mark Steinmetz. The first photo, the kid just looking down in the dumps, feeling the rain coming down at practice. Like that. It's not a eye-catching or crazy dramatic photo, but it's so good. Every single photo of his, specifically when they're involving people, they feel like they could be like on the set of a movie, in the sense that they all feel like such real. I mean, they are real people, obviously, but they feel like characters. It feels like a scene from a movie. I don't know how to describe it, but what's up, Richard? Good to see you. Reminds me of The Sandlot, says John. Yeah, 1000%. Says Amazon has it for $3,000. What the hell? Yeah, don't check Amazon. I've seen some absurd prices. I mean, this book is not in print anymore, but yeah, you ain't paying $3,000 for this. Check out, I would say check out Abe Books or eBay. Look on there. You might have better luck. Is that a cop or a bus driver? Oh, whoops. Let me go back. This one here, I'm assuming. I believe that's an officer. No, maybe not. I don't see anything else but that hat. I can't read the badge, though, on the hat. It's too small. 1976 Bad News Bears vibes. Caspa, are you Team Cena or Team Punk? Oh, dude. I don't know. That's tough. I don't think we're getting I think there's going to be some chicanery that goes on. I don't think we're going to have just a clean-cut, decisive win. I don't know. Bus drivers used to wear hats like that back then. Well, that very well could have been then. I didn't realize that. Yeah, Casper, that's what I'm wondering. Something is afoot. Here's the cover image. Me pointing out the cover image, by the way, is simply me pointing out if they say a movie or if they say the title of the movie like in the movie and you're like, "Oh, that's how I feel about the cover image, at least when you see it. It's one of those moments." This one is so good. I love that. This one right here. Just being framed like that bright sunlight and being framed against this. It's so good. Josh. Hi, Simple Syrup. I mean, we're looking at The Players by Mark Steinmetz. Does it matter to y'all to know the camera the photographer used for the book? I always have to know. For curiosity's sake, sometimes I'll wonder. But on the merit of the photograph and like the scoring or judging the value or the photograph based on that, no. But for the sake of being a photographer nerd, like we just were talking about Baldwin Lee and the amount of photos he shot per day, and when Sage Sawyer was on, and when we were looking at her books, we were looking at her books, and we were talking about like the focal length that she used and the format and how many photos per roll and what that would be, like essentially talking about those things in terms of how that comes into play when you're in the moment. What kind of camera are you using? Do you have to change film? How does that slow you down, or does that add to the, conversation between you and the subject? Like having those breaks. These are all things that you kind of have to like weigh out when you're deciding what you want to use and the pros and cons of each method. Never about did they do it on film because then it's good, or did they use a digital camera because then it's cheating, or anything like that. But I find it interesting to, I would imagine it's the same reason car guys talk about car stuff, They're into everything other than just the pure utility of the vehicle that gets them, to point A to point B. If that makes sense. Yeah, exactly. We're camera nerds. It's just, it's part of it. It's never like, I don't know, sometimes people can act too cool about stuff like that. Like, sometimes people, this is just a quick PSA. Sometimes people will be online and be all like, ugh, I don't care about the gear. It's not about the gear, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, for sure, I get that. But when people try to act too cool as if they're like above it or whatever, you're not getting any extra cool points. It's fine. Like, you can ask questions about gear and not feel like one of the cool people is going to be like, oh, that's lame. Just a heads up. We're talking here. This is how conversations work. So carry on. What's up, Chris? I didn't see you in here. James says, favorite Steinmetz project I've seen so far. Amazing. It's so good. Summer Camp I still think is my favorite, but The Players is great. Oh, thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. That's so good. Man, how many times can I say something is so good about a Mark Steinmetz book? I don't know, but the limit does not exist. Hey, what's up? G. Taylor, good to see you. Love that one. That's a great, was that the last, believe? Yeah. It's a great one to end on, with the field, the ball field there in the distance with this kid watching on the tree stump. So good. How many Steinmetz books do you have, Matt? What a great question, Chris. Let's find out. I have sold a few, so I don't have all of them that I used to have. Because I'll be honest, I'm not in love with all of them that I've bought, but I've kept the ones that I do love. And it's still quite a bit. So that was The Players. We also have Carnival by Mark Steinmetz, which I'm pretty sure this was my first Mark Steinmetz book. This was my introduction to his work when this book came out. And then I went sort of crazy and looked back at everything that came out before then. And since then, Summer Camp, my favorite of his. This one, I believe this is it Rivers and Towns? I believe is the title. It came out in the last couple of years. It's a very big book. I think it's called Rivers and Towns, if I'm remembering correctly. Either way, it's a dense book. This is a really big book of his, which is nice. And then we have the South Trilogy put out by Nazreli Press, which has these 3 books in it. So those are the entirety of my Mark Steinmetz collection. I think I used to have maybe 3 or 4 more that I've since sold, just because they were books I didn't really find myself coming back to. But these books I always do. And wait, I have... Sorry, I lied. I do have more. I knew it felt a little light. Okay. Summertime, a massive book. This one's great. And Past Kville. So those are all of the Mark Steinmetz books. I did have a few more, but I sold them. Let's take a look at Carnival, though, because Carnival is great. Oh, Aaron Buckley's in here. What's up, Aaron? He says, grew up near Williamsport, PA, where they have the Little League World Series every summer. There's a museum there, and it's amazing. Oh, that sounds awesome. Are all these Steinmetz books the same publisher? No. I believe this book, and so 3 of these books were published by Stanley Barker right here. Stanley Barker published Mark Steinmetz, or these 3 books by Mark Steinmetz, and then the rest of them were published by Nazreli Press. So you can see there's sort of a similar look and feel to the books based on the publisher as well. All of these being published by Nazreli Press, and then these books here being published by Stanley Barker. But we're going to take a look at Carnival because, yeah, it's amazing. Wow, I did not know this photographer. Added to the list. That's what I love to hear. If anything, I hope that through these live streams you find some new work that you enjoy. I'm going to tap out because I need to grab some sleep. Plus, I can't afford to see any more books I may want. Well, thank you for hanging, Mel. We'll see you next week. Got to think the natural progression after you show Carnival has to be Irina Rozovsky. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I do have In Plain Air, which is one of my all-time favorites of hers. All right. I have a soft spot for photos of cemeteries when they're tasteful, when it's not like tacky, spooky cemetery stuff, but working in cemeteries for so long, got a soft spot for them. Do you buy directly from Stanley Barker, or did you get theirs from Baltimore Photo Space? Yeah, I usually buy directly from. You said directly. I usually buy from Baltimore Photo Space, not directly from Stanley Barker. But there have been times where I've purchased directly from them, whether it be Baltimore Photo Space already sold out of their shipment of a specific title or something. But I usually try to buy all of my books from Baltimore Photo Space. If there is any book that's like coming out that I'm interested in, if it's anything from, I guess maybe not anything, there are some books that come out where it's sort of a given. I know Kyle and Tori well enough that I know they'll stock it at Baltimore Photo Space, but if there's anything that I'm even on the fence of, I just send the link, whatever it is I'm looking at, I just text it to Kyle, and I'm like, hey, are you guys getting this in? And if he isn't, and he has a way of ordering it for me, then I'll just do that if it's helpful for him. But yeah, just try to order through there anytime I can, just because, it's what you do. But yeah, interesting to see all Mark Steinmetz's work within a carnival setting. And like I said, this was the first time I had ever seen his work, so it was all new to me. But this was the book that kind of led me down the rabbit hole of looking at all of his books. And then I think Kevin is the one who, I think he owned Past Kville, which is one of the other books of his I own. I believe Kevin showed me that at first when I was in Minnesota a few years back. Love this one. Maybe the kid is just burning up, hot summer day. Maybe he's going through it. Girl just left him. Didn't win anything in the balloon game. Who knows? Charles, I do not have Sons of the Living. It was the first time I've passed up on one of his books, and it wasn't for lack of interest. It was just a lack of book purchasing funds that particular month when that came out. I usually don't pass up on any of Brian's work, even if I'm like less interested in it. I usually buy all of his books, but wasn't able to pick that one up at the time. He looks like he's just trying to get through it. Aren't we all? Well said. Do you think Steinmetz had an idea to build this carnival as a book, or him just being a photographer at work on this one subject? Oh, yeah. That's the thing I've learned about Mark Steinmetz is, and I mean, not just him, many photographers, I'm sure, but through his many books, especially in recent years, there have been so many books that have been made just as a matter of, I was there making these photos for my own enjoyment, and here they are, I mean, that was how my first book came to be. It was after I had already taken so many photos and was spending so much time and kind of, realizing a little bit of a pattern there, that I realized, okay, maybe this is something, that actually works together as a book. I think, I don't know, at least for me personally speaking, I've learned more and more that most things I think may be worthwhile, or at least to me, ideas for projects or ideas for photos, locations for photos, most of the things that really resonate with me are things that I didn't like sit down and think up and come up with that way. I feel like a lot of the photos I find, and even just the ideas or thoughts that I have, I didn't sit down to think of an idea for a new project or something. There's something in the real world that is usually triggering a thought or a feeling, or, it's very rarely from, oh yeah, good looking out. That is the cover. I was talking and I missed it. Where'd it go? There it is. But yeah, Does that make sense? For whatever reason, when I've bought from Stanley Barker, my books show up damaged from improper packaging, but the folks in Baltimore Photospace pack things up with such care. Okay, well, since you said it, Dan, yeah. Kyle and I have had that exact conversation about buying directly from Stanley Barker. Kyle has had some frustration dealing with that because, as you just stated, Kyle takes very good pride in the care that he puts into packing his orders so that people get their books free of damage. They're the best at that for sure. And yeah, unfortunately, he has had some issues with getting his stock, his inventory for the shop, and things not being packaged enough on their way to the shop. So I kind of wondered, Dan, when you asked if I bought from them specifically, but I didn't just want to outright be like, no, because they don't pack things well, don't buy their books. But because I personally haven't had that issue. When I bought from them, and again, I think it was maybe once or twice, I didn't have an issue, but yeah, I've heard that can be a problem, which is a bummer. I haven't had any issues when people have received my book. Nobody has told me that they had issues with things getting dinged up in packaging, and it's a pretty simple process of how I pack mine, but I'm glad to hear that. You may enjoy Deer Camp by John Miller, a documentary photographer and educator born, raised, lives, and documented life, people, and landscapes in Vermont's Northeast Kingdom. His work may resonate with you. I'll check that out. Good looking out. Do you have Mark Steinmetz Chicago? I just saw it on Baltimore Photospace. I don't have that one yet, believe it or not. That is on my list, though. That is one that does look interesting to me. I don't believe I've ever ordered directly from Nazreli Press. Not that I can recall. I don't think so. But a lot of people ask from time to time, like, where I buy photo books or how do I know about books that are coming out. Go to Baltimore Photospace and, subscribe to their email newsletter. That's a great way to always know when books are coming out, because I don't just always remember to go window shopping for books, but I always get their email, and that always shows me what's coming out, as well as any of the books that look interesting to you. If there are any books you see that look interesting, check out the publisher. Maybe the publisher sort of has a specific style of work that you regularly go towards. Find out info on the publisher, follow them on social media, or subscribe to their newsletter. You just kind of have to go down rabbit holes and find different book publishers, book stores, both physical and digital, like online only stores. They're out there. You just got to do some digging. No, I don't have Graze the Mountain Sins either, Charles. I'm blowing it. I've got Good Goddamn and County Road. Dan, you're taking it personally. Evan says BPS email list always keeps you plugged on what's new or on the way. Recommended. Thank you. Yeah, BPS is the best. I'm glad to hear someone else sees it as well. Flip through a county road? I suppose we could do that. County road is a good one. All right. County Road by Brian Scootmott. I've heard it pronounced several different ways, and I can't remember. I feel like I've heard him say it once before. Regardless, it's great. This is one of those books that, for me, it's like a comfort blanket type thing, you know, a comfort show you'd put on. It's obviously very different than Ohio, but it feels so at home to me because, most of the time when I'm out looking around for photos, I'm driving around county roads, back roads, gravel roads, anything I can find off the beaten path. That's typically what I'm drawn to when it comes to shooting. I need something that I'm not already looking at all the time. You know what I mean? Especially if it's somewhat close to home. That's just kind of always been like a little photo ritual. And I think for a lot of people, I'm not unique in that. I think a lot of people just gravitate towards wandering around with our cameras, whether it be on the street or on back roads like this. It's all universal in that sense. So because of the subject matter, though, and obviously the title being County Road, this one just feels familiar, but also I think attainable in a way where I've heard mixed thoughts on this book from other photographers. And I think maybe it's because they're comparing it to some of his other work. And maybe it's work of his that has like way more dramatic landscapes, or the presentation of the work isn't in a small-ish book like this. I don't know. There's something about this work of his and the way it's presented that just feels much more personal to him. I don't know. It's hard to put into words, but I really resonate with this one. It feels very, very close to home for me. Isaac says, two of the best off the beaten path landscape books I've come across are The American South, Four Seasons of the Land, and American South, Towns and Cities by William A. Bake. I'll check those out. Appreciate the recommendation, Isaac. Good looking out. I noticed on Nazreli it says coming soon. Looks like you can order it on BPS. Yeah, I believe Baltimore Photo Space. Check the description of the book where you can order it. I believe they mentioned something about when the books will be shipping, because I do believe it is sort of not necessarily a pre-order. I mean, kind of. Yeah, I guess it is a pre-order, but the books are on their way, I believe, from Nazreli. So I think they have a shipping date. I could be wrong. I could have been looking at a different book though. So make sure you check on the site. But just going off of memory, I feel like I remember them posting a shipping date. Checking in from Australia. What's up, Matt? Wait, hold on a second. Matt Dunn, as in this Matt Dunn? Is that right? Is that you in the chat? Or is that just a coincidence? That's me. Wow. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. I love this. I've had this since it came out. Huge shout out. Do we just look at your work now? Do I just put you on the spot like that? I mean, I bought your book and I kept it, so clearly I enjoy it. So it's not really much of putting you on the spot, but beautiful stuff. So there is, we found out through my daughter's school that my wife just started working at, one of the teachers there has an animal, like a wildlife. What do they call it? You know what I'm saying? One of the, it's like a rescue joint, but for like animals of all types. It's not just the, cats and dogs type rescue. But I'm going to go over there and make some photos of some of the different animals they've got, and I'm excited for it. And when I saw your book the first time, that really inspired me to like step out of just what I am already exposed to. So yeah, thanks, Matt. Wildlife Reserve, that's what I was looking for. Thank you. Yes, not rescue, reserve. They've got a possum that they brought to the school recently for the kids, and I saw that and I was like, hey, where'd the possum come from? I need to know more. And then they were like, oh yeah, that's one of the teachers. She has all these animals and stuff. And I've just been looking for other like people within our area, different stories to tell. But Matt, this was a book that, when that came out, or when this came out and I first sat down with it, that was something that kind of got me thinking in that direction. So, yeah, shout out to you. I'm super glad you popped up on the stream and we got to do that. That was cool. County Road, Jeff says County Roads feel very contemplative, poetic, which I think is a nice contrast to his other work that feels more narrative documentarian. Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. It does feel very, the idea of like being by yourself and meditating with your camera. I think that's something that a lot of us kind of resonate with. Yeah, well said. Yeah, you guys should check out The Killing Sink by Matt Dunn. It's awesome. But yeah, I am... Oh, Quaid, welcome to channel members. Thank you, Quaid. I just now saw that. Appreciate you, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I should have a new video coming out tomorrow, by the way. Tomorrow and then also Friday as well. This month is very much like, I've got to finish up things right before the end of the month. It's been one of those months as we have talked about, and you'll hear more about in the videos. But yeah, those are coming out this week, and then next week we'll be back to it. But I have to do a somewhat shorter stream tonight because I've got to work on one of the other videos right after this. And I've got to sleep at some point. So a little bit shorter stream tonight, but we got to look at a decent amount of books. That felt great. I'm super glad we got to do that, and especially based on some of your recommendations that books I haven't looked at in a while. So that was fun. Next week, we'll be back at it, 9 o'clock. If you have any book recommendations or anything, any ideas for things you'd like to see on stream next week, shoot me a message between now and then, or you can just tell me next week and I'll grab it off the shelf then. Appreciate all of you hanging out with me, though. This is a fun stream. If you have any questions for me or anything, let me know. Yeah, I got to work on this video, so that's it. Appreciate y'all hanging with me tonight. Enjoy the rest of your week, and yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Be safe.